Steve McQueen is the second studio album by English pop band Prefab Sprout, released in June 1985. The album peaked at number 21 on the UK Albums Chart and number 180 on the US Billboard 200. In the United States, the album was released in the United States as Two Wheels Good due to a legal conflict with the estate of American actor Steve McQueen. The cover of the album is a reference to Steve McQueen's lifelong passion for Triumph motorcycles and the 1963 film The Great Escape, starring McQueen and featuring prominent motorcycle chase scenes, with stunts performed by himself on a Triumph motorcycle. On the 2nd of April 2007 it was reissued as a Legacy Edition double CD, featuring a remastered version of the original album and a bonus disc featuring acoustic versions of the songs recorded by the band's frontman Paddy McAloon in 2006. Recording. On an episode of the BBC Radio 1 program Roundtable, noted musician and producer Thomas Dolby, a panelist on the program, spoke favorably of Prefab Sprout's Don't Sing, a track from their 1984 Swoon. The band subsequently contacted Dolby, who met with their frontman and primary lyricist Paddy McAloon in the latter's County Durham home. McAloon presented Dolby with a number of songs he had written, probably 40 or 50 by Dolby's estimate, some written as far back as 10 to 12 years prior. Dolby then picked his favorites and asked McAloon to make demo recordings of them. These recordings served as the basis for Dolby's initial process of planning the album's recording. In the autumn of 1984, Dolby and Prefab Sprout began working up the album's songs in rehearsals at Namas Studios in West London. After these sessions had commenced, they moved to Marcus Studios for proper recording. The sessions were of a mutually amicable atmosphere, with the band being respectful of Dolby's edge over them in recording and musical experience and Dolby himself keeping into account the band's wishes, knowing that McAloon wouldn't want to be deluded by what I added to the album. Subsequent mixing was carried out at Farmyard Studios in Buckinghamshire. Music and lyrics. The bulk of Steve McQueen's sound is dominated by Dolby's lush, jazz-tinged production. McAloon's songs touch on a number of themes, including love, infidelity, regret, and heartbreak, and are lyrically literate and humorous without being condescending in the slightest. Critical reception. Critically acclaimed at the time of its release, Steve McQueen reached number 4 in the 1985 NME End of Year poll for Best Albums, as well as number 28 on the Village Voices Paz and JOP Critics poll for Best Albums. Chris Heath of Smash Hits called frontman Paddy McAloon one of the best songwriters of depressingly precise song about the joys, fears and disappointments of love to emerge in the wake of the Smiths' rise, and lamented his suspicion that too many people would be put off by the obscurity and complexity of Prefab Sprout's songs. Richard Jere of Spin cited Cole Porter, George Gershwin, Lennon McCartney and Elvis Costello, among other figures, as some of the many ghosts lurking in McAloon's lyrics, and wrote, "I confess that the usual sensitive singer-songwriter crap almost always makes me squeal with boredom, but McAloon delivers the bacon here." Robert Christgau, writing in the Village Voice, called McAloon a type we've met many times before, the well-meaning cad, and was reminded of the justly obscure, unjustly forgotten Joe Mama, or of Aztec Camera if Roddy Frame were a cad. Subsequent retrospective reviews of the album have also been favorable. Jason Ankeny of AllMusic described Steve McQueen as a minor classic, a shimmering jazz-pop masterpiece sparked by Paddy McAloon's witty and inventive songwriting. Alex Robertson of Sputnik Music praised it as a nearly flawless convergence of gorgeous, smart pop songwriting and immediately pleasurable production that divides itself into 11 songs that are both distinct and also separated by a common thread of excellence. Q's Gareth Grundy called Steve McQueen the most succinct expression of McAloon's skills as a songwriter, while Will Hermes, writing in Spin in his column of Best Reissues, described the album as elegant and found it to be Thomas Dolby's supreme achievement as a producer. Legacy. Steve McQueen has subsequently featured in a number of all-time lists of greatest albums, including number 47 in a poll by The Times in 1993, number 90 in a poll by Mojo in 1995 and number 61 in a 1997 poll by The Guardian. Stephen Truce of Pitchfork Media cites it as the defining record of 1985 sophistopop. The AV Club's Noel Murray writes that Steve McQueen and preceding album Swoon are considered classics of the mid-80s post-punk, new wave era, even though they don't sound like they belong to any particular movement, while Pop Matters Russ Slater describes them as great indie pop. Terry Staunton of Record Collector writes that more than 20 years on, McAloon's dissertations on love, loss and uncertainty are just as affecting, the intelligence of the lyrics matched by the sophistication of the chord structures and the musical arrangements. The album is one of 17 released in 1985 to feature in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Track listing. All songs written by Paddy McAloon. Farron Young 350, Bonnie 345, Appetite 356, When Love Breaks Down 408. The UK and US releases have slightly different versions of the song. Goodbye Lucille 1 to 431. Hallelujah 420. Moving the River 357. Horsing, around 439. Desire is 519. Blueberry Pies 224. When the Angels 429. The Yearning Loins 338 bonus track. He'll Have to Go 306 bonus track. Farron, Truckin', Mix 445 bonus track. Legacy Edition second disc. Appetite 357. Bonnie 558. Desire is 708. When Love Breaks Down 424. Goodbye Lucille 1 to 354. Moving the River 339. Farron Young 347. When the Angels 408. Personnel. Credits adapted from the liner notes for Steve McQueen. Prefab Sprout. Neil Conti. Drums. Percussion. Martin McAloon. Bass. Patty McAloon. Composition. Guitar, keyboards, vocals. Wendy Smith, keyboards, backing vocals. Additional personnel. Kevin Armstrong, guitar, 6, 9. Matt Berry, engineering, assistant. Dana, engineering, assistant. Thomas Dolby, instruments, mixing, production. East Orange, sleeve design. Brian Evans, engineering. Tim Hunt, engineering. Mark Lockhart, saxophone, 9. Andy Scarth, engineering. Chris Sheldon, engineering. Mike Shipley, mixing, mixdown engineering. Kathy Smith, engineering, assistant. Sven Tates, engineering, assistant. Phil Thornley, mixing, 4. John Warwick, photography, hand coloring.